Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a two-part review. Well, one-part review, one-part unboxing, because there have been two parcels that arrived today that I figured I would share with you guys. I always love sharing kind of new stuff that comes to the Ram. And we're going to do a review of a fragrance from the house of Anna Zworykina. And they are definitely in the artisanal area. This is her Cuir de Russie is the one we're going to discuss today. And you can see both of these were actually gifts because this is actually a pretty expensive fragrance to buy, believe it or not. And one person sent me this. It was a little over half full. And this is actually a gift from Al Manzano, who sent me this a year and a half ago, maybe. And so this is actually their bigger bottle, believe it or not. This is the smaller bottle, but both of these are very expensive. This is a brand that is definitely in the artisanal realm. They use real Castoreum, real Ambergris, real Birch Tar in here, all that good stuff. But it is actually rectified Birch Tar, so you can actually wear it on your skin. But first, we're going to do some quick unboxings. And the first one is going to come from Allie. And you all know Allie always keeps me apprised of and well-stocked with amouages, but this one's not an amouage. I actually know what this is because she sent me a picture, and I had never heard of this fragrance before, but she said, hey, I used to wear this as a teenager. It was one of the scents that I used to wear. I've been trying to revisit some of the stuff that I used to own back in the day, and I wanted to share a bottle with you, and I said, you are way too kind. Thank you very much. And so that is what this is, which, let me show you what it is. Let me show you, because I had never heard of this before. So this is a fragrance by Robert Beaulieu. Sorry for the absolute butchering. I can't speak today. And this is called Vison Noir. Now, I'll tell you the coolest thing about this, by the way, is the cap. Check this out. Well, hopefully it's the fragrance, but the cap on this bottle is absolutely hilarious. Very, very furry. For those of you who enjoy furry things, this is definitely a fragrance to check out. It feels good in the hand, too. And so, when I look at this, I just imagine this is going to be extremely animalic. But apparently, she was saying it's not. It's not as animalic as she remembers it. So, let me just look it up real quick. Vison Noir. Believe it or not, it is discontinued. Go figure. A discontinued fragrance on Channel Ram. Who could have ever believed it? But Vison Noir is V-I-S-O-N. Vison. 1991 release. Discontinued. Perfumer is Francois Robert. Is that correct? The Francois Robert? Or is this like a Francois Robert? I don't know. Who am I thinking? Okay, maybe I have no clue. Is this related to Guy Robert in any way? Potentially? Maybe? But Vison Noir is controversially rated bottle. Yeah, I would say so. Very, very furry. Very, very furry. And so it is a floral, musky, powdery, fruity fragrance. It's got musk, orange blossom, benzoin, bergamot, coriander, frankincense, galbanum, jasmine, labdanum, lavender, mandarin orange, moss, patchouli, plum, rose, sandalwood, vanilla, vetiver, blackcurrant, pot, marigold, tonka bean, and lily. So, yeah, hell of a bottle. I mean, the bottle itself is just awesome. So thank you for your generosity there, Allie. You are way too kind, my dear. So that'll be a fun one to break down one day. So that is, I'm saying Vision, but it's probably like Vison Noir. I don't know how to pronounce that. Okay, so next on the list, we have a bigger box. And this came all the way from Pittsburgh. And if you know it's from Pittsburgh, you know it's from Angie. So thank you very much. So let us open it. Let's see what we have in here. Let us see the contents. There's a lot of stuff in here. All right. She has been keeping me well stocked as of late. Well stocked. I will tell you, just real quick, I tried Ispahan for the very first time. The Ispahan from 1977, Maurice Roussel creation. Vez Rocher's The House. My God, man. I was absolutely in love. Absolutely, positively in love. That may be Maurice Roussel's greatest creation ever, of all time. So, that's cool. Black Suede Antiperspirant. I'm going to wear this. I'm going to wear my Black Suede aftershave. And I'm going to wear the Black Suede eau de toilette that she sent me a decant of. So I'm going to be totally black sueded out one of these days. This is... oh, what is this? I don't know. This is Royal Secret Spray Concentration. Never heard of Royal Secret. Hypnotic Poison. Never smelled it. Never smelled Hypnotic Poison. I think there's a lot of people that do not like Hypnotic Poison, but we shall see. So, thank you very much, Angie. You are way too kind. Let's see what else we have in here. Lots of samples. Lots of samples. I'm going to have to go through these one day. I'm going to have to kind of pick through these, but there's a bottle of Estee. Here is Cerruti Image for women. That's kind of cool. And lots of samples. Ooh, I think I saw on a Riesling Doré. What is that? Ah, Quirtus, yes. Quirtus, the good old Quirtus. It is very good. I am a big fan. Big fan of Quirtus. Okay, let's see what else we have in here. I'll have to run through these samples later on. Oh, and I dropped them. Okay. Next, we've got a box inside of a box. For those of you who love the unboxing sound, this video is for you. Ah, beautiful. Poison Eau de Cologne. Nice. I have the Esprit de Parfum somewhere, which is right here. So maybe a comparison video will be in order. I love this stuff on other people. I don't necessarily love wearing poison myself. But that'll be a cool little comparison video one day. Thank you very much, Angie. You are too kind. I am not worthy. All right, let's see what else we got. We have this little bad boy. Ciara Femme Fatale. I'm guessing it's going to be very femme. I have no idea what that smells like. Let's look it up. Femme Fatale. Fatale. Femme Fatale. Ciara. Revlon. 1995. Discontinued, of course. Jasmine, mandarin orange, peach, pear, sandalwood, and vanilla. No clue who the perfumer is. But very cool little bottle or box. I like the little Roman style images all over the front, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm digging it. Okay, next. We have Some decants. I'm gonna have to go through these. Bella de Opium Eau de Parfum. Dior Addict. I've actually been wanting to smell Dior Addict forever, believe it or not. Dior Addict is a 2002 release, and it was created by Thierry Vasser, believe it or not. Discontinued, stupidly, by Dior. Mandarin Orange Leaf, Blackberry, Queen of the Night, Jasmine, Orange Blossom, Rose, Bourbon, Vanilla, Tonka Bean, and Sandalwood. So Thierry Vasser made that bad boy. And I hear good things about it. I know Eugene used to really like that, so that'll be fun to get to know. And then we have this, which is a Guerlain Shlimar Eau de Cologne. That's awesome. I love Shlimar in any form. I've never smelled a Shlimar that I did not like. This is the iconic clock face bottle Shlimar, which is beautiful. This version is discontinued. I can smell it through here. It is absolutely a top 10 fragrance for me. I don't know if you can do any better than Shlimar. Okay, next on the list we have, I'm gonna have to go through these decants one of these days, just run through them and really catalog what I have here. Ambergris by Givenchy Mini. I'll run through these just in the essence of time. I will run through these. Lots of little decants. Band Street Yardley Cologne. That's cool. Very nice. And Tender Poison. I've never smelled any of the poison flankers. I've never smelled. Now it looks like I'm going to smell them all. And let's see. Oh. This bottle is an asshole. Well, all right. I'm guessing it's going to leak. Oh, yeah. I can smell it in there. This is Kouros. Do I want to smell like Kouros as I'm about to do a review of something else? This is actually a flanker of Kouros, which I have been wanting forever. This is maybe the coolest thing that she sent me. And, I mean, I can definitely smell it. I'm going to leave it in here. But it's Kouros Fraîcheur, which I think is the pineapple one. This is a Parfums Court bottle. Let me look it up, just so I can save it to the database here. Kouros Fraîcheur, 1993. Discontinued. Bergamot, Orange Blossom, Pineapple, Amber, Ginger, Patchouli, and Vetiver. I don't know if Pure Bourdon made that one as well or not, but that's awesome. Of all of the stuff in here, that is my favorite right now, because I'm really excited to get to know that. And then we've got, I think this is, what are you? I think you may be Allie Ange. I think you may be another bottle of Allie Ange, which is, I really, really liked Allie Ange, smelling it for the very first time. That is one of the best green fragrances I've ever smelled in my life. Vera Wang for Men decant, which I've never smelled before, so that'll be fun. I hear good things about Vera Wang for Men. I hear it's compared to Tom Ford's For Men from 2007. So Vera Wang for Men. I think it's still available, actually, but it's Jean-Marc Chailan, who I think is the son of the great Raymond Chailan. Yuzu, mandarin, orange leaf, nutmeg, aniseed, leather, sandalwood, and tobacco. So it's supposed to be like a fresh tobacco. Like, imagine Dolce & Gabbana The One EDT meets like Tom Ford for Men kind of thing. So that's exciting. And then we have one more, and it's a bottle, and it looks like a poison bottle. Today is the day of poison. The poison Eau de Toilette. So we have the Eau de Toilette, the Eau de Cologne, and the Esprit de Parfum. That'll make a hell of a comparison video one of these days. And I mean, these are all old too, so they're the powerful versions. Parfums Christian Dior. So thank you. Thank you, Angie. Very, very kind of you, dear. Very, very kind. So thank you to everyone who's ever sent me anything. The only thing I will always ask you is please be patient. As you can see, I am surrounded in perfume, so it is going to take me a little while to get to some of these, but excited to be able to do so. So thank you for your generosity. Okay, so with that out of the way, the unboxing's completed. Let us discuss the fragrance we're here to discuss, which is this little bad boy. I was like, where did it go? It's not there. Here it is. It is Anna Zworykina's Cuir de Russie. So I've got about a half an hour spray here. You can still see the stain on my hand. That's what the actual materials look like when you create a fragrance like these artisanal fragrances. And on this hand, I have about a 7-hour dry down or so. So it's deep into the dry down, okay? So the notes according to Parfumo: Castoreum, yes. Galbanum, Labdanum, Oak Moss, Tar, yes. So if you just want like the 30,000 foot overview on Anna Zworykina's Cuir de Russie, I would describe it as a very tar heavy smelling version of Cuir de Russie. Okay, so I've discussed some previous Cuir de Russies on the channel, like Chanel's Cuir de Russie is like the gold standard. And there will be some others that I discuss. This is one such example. Del Oro, Russian Leather, and Russian Leather 2, which I've never been able to discern what the difference is between these, but Russian Leather and Russian Leather 2, these are amazing versions of Russian Leathers. And there's some other Russian Leathers that you've heard me discuss on the channel, but by far, for me, my all-time favorite is Aries Ladore's Cuir de Russie, which I reviewed on the channel. You can check that out. And this is actually the first one of this brand I'm doing a review of. So she has a lot of work out there that you can buy from her. She sells her stuff on Etsy, if I'm not mistaken. I think she's still on Etsy. That's where you can buy her stuff. But I'm very blessed to have these because they are not cheap at all. And the second this hits your skin, you can tell this is a artisanal version of Cuir de Russie. Okay, the second it hits your skin, you're going to notice that tarry aspect to it, very smoky in the beginning. Imagine like burned tar, right? Rubbery burned tar with absinthe, patchouli. Definitely you'll get the patchouli in here. South Pacific sandalwood, which we'll discuss a little bit about later on. Tobacco, yes. Ambergris, yes. Ambrette, yes. Mugwort, orange blossom, bergamot, clove, jasmine, lemon, may rose, vetiver, ylang ylang, and yuzu. Okay, so that's the note composition. It's described as leathery and spicy. I have no clue when this was released, to be honest with you. There's no release year in the database in Parfumo, so I have no clue how old this is. But I can tell you that that heavy kind of tarry, resinous, smoky aspect, and you can really tell the notes are, these are not synthetic recreations in a lab, okay? You're smelling the real thing. This is Anna Zworykina in her lab, kind of creating tinctures and all that stuff and trying to take the next step and create something amazing in the Cuir de Russie Accord. Looking backwards, because obviously Cuir de Russie, I'll go through the history of it, because this is one of those fragrances that I'm going to have a hard time, I think, saying, okay, at hour 7.5, it smells like this, because everything is so kind of well blended and there's that constant kind of burn, you know, that tarry burn that comes with this fragrance. So I'm going to go through some of the history of Cuir de Russie and how it makes me feel. But I will tell you that everything in this fragrance smells natural. I mean, I'm sure there's some synthetics holding everything together, but I would rank her as one of the better artisanal houses. Okay, I wouldn't put her up there with Aries Ladore or Ensar Oud or anything like that, but I would put her ahead of houses like maybe Prin Lamras. You know, I would put her one step ahead of Prin Lamras. So my artisanal kind of tree, if you will, would be Prin Lamras, then her, then the Ensars and the Aries Ladores and stuff like that at the top, okay? And I've reviewed lots of Prin Lamras's work on the channel, but I have not reviewed anything from the house of Anna Zworykina. So let's take a step back, I guess, and discuss a little bit about what Russian leather fragrances are. Okay, for those of you who have kind of wandered into this and you have no clue what's going on, and you're not familiar with my previous videos on the subject, because I've done some videos that I would urge you to check out comparing Spanish leathers to Russian leathers to kind of modern leathers, if you will. But the first thing that I should mention when it comes to a Russian leather fragrance, and the reason that you see Cuir de Russie here, you see Cuir de Russie here, right, in Chanel, you see Cuir de Russie here, Del Oro's Cuir de Russie, is that Cuir de Russie, there was a sort of court case in the United States long ago where they basically said that Cuir de Russie cannot be copyrighted, okay? It can't be as a registered trademark. Brands can't say, no, I created Cuir de Russie, it's mine, okay? It doesn't work that way. And so that's the reason why you have so many different versions of Cuir de Russie. And so Russian leather fragrances are basically meant to smell like the very famous Russian leather. And there was a rumor at one point that only the aristocracy, only the bourgeoisie, only the upper crust of Russian society could own pure, proper Russian leather, okay? And so they would turn them into high-end jackets and suitcases and all this stuff. And the reason that Russian leather basically became so popular is because hundreds of years ago, well, let's say in the 1800s, okay, when the Russian army was kind of seen as the peak fighting, one of the peak, most impressive fighting forces in the world, if you will. Obviously, you know, it's crazy to think about time this way, but I was listening to some guys talk, and they were talking about World War I. And they were saying, if you think about it, Waterloo, which is when Napoleon was defeated, was only 99 years before World War I. And I was thinking, wow, you know, when you think about it that way, it doesn't seem that long ago. But as far as like military tactics and everything go, it seems like a lifetime ago, right? From World War I to Waterloo. But it's true. I mean, it wasn't even 100 years, right? So you think about the Russian army defeating Napoleon at Waterloo, and the lore and the glory and the sort of the honor that the world bestowed upon Russia's fighting forces, and how they sort of withdrew and allowed the enemy to come to them and did that scorched earth policy thing and allowed like Mother Russia to kind of swallow them up. And they repeated it in World War II. I mean, the Germans basically followed in Napoleon's footsteps. It's absolutely crazy to think about, but just adds to the lore even further, right? So the thing about Russian leather fragrances is it became kind of like a fashion thing, you know, in the 1800s when the Russian army was seen as one of the primo fighting armies on planet Earth. This Russian leather craze kind of swept across Europe and landed in Paris, if you will. And in Paris, these high-end houses, you know, even houses like Guerlain have made a Cuir de Russie. I've never smelled Guerlain's Cuir de Russie, but they made one long, long ago. Many high-end Paris fashion houses at the time have their version of a Cuir de Russie. And the thing about Cuir de Russie fragrances in general that sets them apart is it's all about the birch tar. The birch tar and the birch oil, if you will. And so if you've ever actually seen birch being sort of the bark being peeled off of the tree, birch comes off of the tree in almost like these papery kind of slices, if you will, okay? So it comes off in these papery sheets, and they would use this birch to basically tan the leather skins by soaking it in this birch. They would use alcohol and whatever other mixture. Some say they pissed in it, but whatever mixture was handed down through the ages to sort of cure and tan this leather, okay? And every sort of region of the world, every society has their own way heading back generations and generations of how you tan leather. Well, this is how the Russians did it. And so it's interesting because it's like a mixture of this birch and some other things which we will discuss that is supposed to make the leather what made it so popular. I mean, it basically made it one of the most popular leathers in the world, one of the most sought after leathers in the world. You know, people with money in Paris were paying to export Russian leather back then, and they were paying big money to export it. And so for me, if you said, Ramsey, you've smelled all these different Russian leather fragrances that you've shown, if you could add one to your collection, which one would it be? It would be Aries Ladore's Cuir de Russie. I reviewed it on the channel off of a very generous decant Russian Adam gave me, but every drop of that stuff is precious. But it is the perfect representation of Cuir de Russie for me personally. And go watch my review of Cuir de Russie by Aries Lauder just to see how excited I was about that fragrance. The problem with that fragrance is that it isn't supposed to be used on skin because it has unrectified birch tar, which can be known to be hazardous to your skin. It can be carcinogenic. It can be all kind of problems that come with it. It is not advisable to put untreated birch tar on your skin, okay? But I think that that is just a genius creation. I reviewed it off of a blotter, off of kind of spraying it on my clothes, but that is perfection for me. Like the way Russian Adam uses the animalics and all that stuff in there, you can't, I've never smelled any Russian leather that gets close to that. However, if you can imagine kind of a step down from his Russian leather, still smelling in the same ballpark, but without kind of the, because he used all kind of crazy things in there, like beaver tail oil. I've never even heard of beaver tail oil, but apparently it's like 10 times more animalic than Castoreum, right? He used all kind of crazy things in there, and it worked beautifully. It was like a mad scientist nailed it, okay? But if you're someone who's like, that's too much for me, I want something that is kind of in that same artisanal Cuir de Russie, but a little bit toned down, this is your answer. Anna Zworykina's Cuir de Russie is kind of your answer. So I just want you to imagine sort of this very impressive army from the times of Napoleon brought forth into the modern age. You know, what was one of the most important characteristics of an army back then? Well, it was their ability to march, right? And so Napoleon shocked the world with how quickly his army could move from one place to the other. Old generals that he kind of went against still were thinking of these old paradigms, and he was kind of shattering them and moving his armies here and there much quicker than anyone ever thought he could. So obviously you have hundreds of thousands of men, and you're trying to get from point A to point B. It's obvious that you need great boots, right? I mean, how could you do that without having amazing boots on their feet? I mean, you could, but I think the men would be pretty pissed off. So the Russians basically developed this strategy of curing the leather, specifically the leather boots, but they also cured the leather jackets and leather suitcases later on and all this stuff, leather saddle hides, all kind of things, okay? So they developed this strategy of curing it. And if you have an army, what do you want their boots to be? You want their boots to be two things. You want them to be nimble, flexible, and bend, and you want them to be durable. You want them to last. You don't want them to step on a rock and it rip in half, right? So you want them to be able to march on all kind of terrains using that leather, right? So they developed this strategy using birch oil, okay? And they would mix in with the birch oil things like seal blubber, okay? Seal or whale blubber was commonly used, but let's just say some sort of animal fat was used, okay? I don't know if it was specifically seal or whale. I've kind of heard both. I've heard all kind of things, but let's say some type of animal fat was used in there. So you imagine this sort of papery birch tar going in, right? Animal fat going in, piss going in, right? Urine is rumored to be part of the process. They would piss in it. And it kind of separated their way of curing leathers from the way the Arabs did it in the Middle East and the Europeans did it and all this stuff, right? And so it became, in a sense, almost like world famous, all right? The way that the Russians did it became this world famous curing leather process, okay? Well, this process left the leather not only looking and feeling different, because it became famous for its ability to withstand, you know, the pressures of long marches and all that stuff. But it also made it very stinky. Just imagine whale blubber, seal fat, piss, God knows what else they put in there. You know, alcohol was probably put in there. But it just became a stinky process of curing this leather. Yes, the leather was cured. I heard a rumor that the Arabs used to use literal feces. They would like rub piss and feces on the leather to kind of cure it, you know? So there's all kind of different strategies that have evolved throughout time to cure leather. And obviously it must have been very stinky doing something like that, but you know, I'm sitting here talking to you from Texas in 2024. I can't say I've ever cured a piece of leather myself, so I have no personal experience doing it. But from what I've read, I can imagine that it was probably a process that made the leather smell bad. If you were like a royal of the time, you may not want to wear leather that smelled like that. You wanted to smell more presentable, right? So, what was interesting though is apparently that combination of birch tar and Russian leather and whale fat and all that stuff, it would kind of fix any inaccuracies in the leather. And from my understanding, using the birch oil, the animal fat, and all the other tricks of the trade had this property of like dissolving away the putrefied elements, okay? The putrefied components would just dissolve away. So it basically rotted everything away except the leather. But it made it stink. And so what they didn't do it just once, okay? They didn't just put it in, bam, okay, you're done. They did it over and over and over again. And so in order to really make the leather take everything, they constantly cured it again and again and again. And it must have been a horrible process. It must have been a horribly smelling process. So what was their fix to that? Well, their fix to that was to put things like tonka bean or sandalwood or some sort of oil on top of it, to try to hide the stench of that initial mixture, if you will, right? So Russian fragrances basically turn into this contrast of beautiful round warmth, this leathery warmth. Obviously, the leather is like the key star of the show here, but really, it's a very specific type of leather that you're smelling, and that's what you smell in Anna Zworykina's Cuir de Russie. You smell this very tarry take on a birch-heavy leather. And birch can give off this kind of winter green-like smell. You know, if you've ever tasted those lifesavers that are in winter green kind of shape, if you will, birch gives off large amounts of methyl salicylate, methyl salicylate, which has this winter green lifesaver-like smell to it, which I love. I love winter green lifesavers. I could eat the whole damn thing, like a Costco-sized bag of it. I could just eat one after the other. So, whereas Spanish leathers were kind of much more delicate and all that stuff, Peau d'Espagne literally translates to skin of Spain, right? Imagine like the soft, delicate hands of like a Spanish princess that never actually saw a day of work in her life. Totally kept, okay? Russian leather scents are much more powerful, and they usually remind me of animals or horses. And that's exactly what this reminds me of. This reminds me of, you could imagine being in like the Great Lost Library of Alexandria, or, you know, old books or ancient, you know, chess, or, you know, that it's that feeling of, you know, there was a story that Napoleon, when he used to travel, used to have his people bring entire libraries of his books with him, basically. So he had this portable library that was kind of traveling all over with him. And I just imagine what that must have been like for the books, you know, being out and about and just brought in the terrain and everywhere and being in the sun and all that stuff. Imagine like leather-bound books that just sat in the sun baking. And I'm sure they were in a chest or something, but still, you know, in the heat and the cold, all that stuff. And I'm sure they smelled amazing. I mean, I'm sure they smelled very rich and deep and dense, and that's what this smells like. It smells like an alive animals. Okay, imagine like a horse. You know, it has this horse type smell to it, but it also has kind of the like, imagine the parts of society. Like I mentioned, the books being right along with you for the ride. Books and pens and quills and all that stuff from back in the day. Ancient times is really what this kind of reminds me of. And I'm very curious to see and to know, because there's something very primal about this fragrance. It's very animalic, but in a proper, almost like Russian leather kind of way. And Anna Zworykina captures that perfectly. I'm very curious to know her background, because if she is Russian, it almost makes me wonder, like, was this fragrance even more meaningful to her, you know? Because when Russian Adam was telling me about creating his version of Cuir de Russie, he was saying he remembers being a kid and playing around the birch trees in Russia, and, you know, using the papery birch bark to do things like start fires or whatever, you know, whatever little kid boys get into, right? So I'm curious for her, like, is there like a memory of Mother Russia that reminds her of this, that she kind of goes back to mentally in the creative process? So you know, for a fragrance that uses all of these natural materials, I think it's surprisingly well blended. In the first 5 minutes, you're hit with this Castoreum, which is very fuzzy. Where's my fuzzy cap? Very fuzzy, okay? The Castoreum could easily be represented by this damn cap right here. This is the Castoreum you're smelling in Anna Zworykina's Cuir de Russie, okay? It's got that fuzzy, furry, but also, I would say warming feel. It is animalic, but it's warming. And, you know, it's as if you're smelling the fur of an animal that is equipped to survive those heavy Russian winters, those outrageous Russian winters, right? And the thing about Anna Zworykina's Cuir de Russie, and you could also add Arise Ladore's Russian Adams Cuir de Russie as well, is that you don't have as much of the mellow, calming, smoothing side to the fragrance. Like when you look at some of the more mainstream Cuir de Russies, I'll use Chanel's in there as an example of this as well. You get that calming, soothing. With Chanel, you also get that posh, high-end Chanel feel to it. But many of the just Cuir de Russies you'll find that are not in the artisanal vein have this very mellow, soft, you know, almost relaxing. Like you're sitting in your carriage, the horses are pulling you, but you're in your carriage, and yes, you get some of the funk of the animals, but that's like out there. You know, you're in here with your portable library and all this crazy stuff, right? You're in here with all the luxuries, and this for me doesn't have that feeling of just you're gonna put your feet up and be mellow and relax and calm and lay back. You know, it doesn't have that lay back and relax. Even though the time period in my head always takes me back to before automobiles. Let's just say the 1800s, you know, before automobiles and airplanes and all that stuff. I still imagine many of these Russian leather scents having this air of luxury about them. But on the artisanal side, Cuir de Russie sort of highlights more of the darker elements of a Russian leather, if you will. So here, it seems to highlight a smell which has this almost like black, imagine like black pastel, you know, like this black paste that you were mixing up, like the color of my shirt black, dark black, that you're going to actually then put this paste on the leather, okay? And so you're smelling maybe the paste that the leather was in. The leather was placed into this paste to be cured, and you know, that's what you're smelling. So the leather is kind of left over inside of the leather smell is inside of the paste. And it almost has the consistency of shoe polish, but it doesn't smell like shoe polish. It smells like a Russian leather, but it has the consistency of shoe polish, if that makes sense. But the depth of Russian leather. That is Anna Zworykina's Cuir de Russie. From time to time, you will get those animalic, unwashed vibes. From time to time, you'll get the little peaks of green that come through. I mentioned a couple green notes when I was going through the breakdown. So, for example, there's galbanum, which is a green resin. There's mugwort, which kind of gives it this slightly woody, earthy type feel. You know, mugwort is a very popular. It's a very popular note in vintage masculine perfumery. And so you get little bits and pieces of the green that just kind of peek through here and there. I don't think I've ever smelled this and went, wow, this is like a hardcore green, like Allie Ange. It doesn't have that hardcore, this is a green fragrance through and through feel, okay? But you will get these little hints of green, almost like you're in your carriage, like I was describing earlier, and the horses are pulling you along, and you look out and you see kind of the green countryside. But it's out there. You know, you're in here. You're in your little bubble. Now, I mentioned a couple other things in this fragrance, and most important one to highlight though, outside of the tar. The tar is probably the most important thing to highlight. This tar note that she created is beautiful. I will admit that. It's very tarry, but it's very beautiful. Is the smoke. The smoke and the tar kind of go hand in hand. And it's almost like maybe there's some incense sticks burning or something inside of your carriage, if you will, and to stick with my analogy. There's or maybe you like smoked a pipe in there or something, because there's a little bit of a tobacco smoke as well, but the smoke is pretty noticeable. Sometimes you're gonna think it smells like it's like coming off of a tar pit or something, like smoke off of a tar pit. Smoke on the water, I don't know how you would describe it. Sometimes it smells like tobacco smoke. Sometimes you get this hint of incensey like smoke, but the smoke and the tar go hand in hand. They can't be removed. Now, she blended it all with the South Pacific sandalwood. Remember I was telling you in the beginning, whenever you have this Russian leather concoction, you're actually creating the Russian leather, that it would stink. And so they would put things like sandalwood on it to try to mask that smell, right? So she used South Pacific sandalwood, which to my understanding, and again, I've never compared South Pacific sandalwood to its cousins, Australian sandalwood and all this stuff. But I think South Pacific sandalwood is meant to smell a little bit more earthy and a little bit more complex. And that's the other part of this fragrance, is it definitely gives you this earthy, muddy, you know, imagine when the Germans were trying to invade Russia and the mud and the rains came right before the snow hit, and the tanks were like glued to the ground because of the ground turning to mud. There's definitely this like Russian mud feel to the fragrance. And it's very leathery, obviously very leathery, but also you're going to pick up little bits of spices, very, very smoky. Again, smoke rising off the tar pits. That is the image of Anna Zworykina's Cuir de Russie. And, you know, like I said earlier, Russian Adam's Cuir de Russie gets the nod because I prefer the way he does his animalics. It just vibes better with my nose. That's a personal preference for me. However, I could see a lot of people that they would say this is the Cuir de Russie kind of gold standard. The one little small slight thing that I'll pick on this about is that the bottles smell different to my nose, just a little bit. Okay, this one I think smells a little bit richer, darker, muskier, smokier, whatever you want to call it. It has more of that darker, smokier feel, and maybe it's just because there's not as much air in this bottle yet. But I'm thinking that more of some of the details that I don't get as much of here come through here. So also I think into the dry down, you will notice that it turns more ambery and loses some of that kind of smoky quality. You know, that bracing, bitter, birch tar, birchy feel, which feels so front and center the first 3-4 hours. Once you get later into the dry down, it really starts to feel more ambery, like that labdanum really starts to kind of take over. Okay, so you know, the leathery facets stay throughout, but I think late into the dry down you're going to notice more of the mosses, more of the labdanums and stuff like that. But it's a complex, first class, beautiful composition. Cannot say anything. I really can't say anything more about it. I think I've touched on all points that I can think of. But it deserves to be discussed. And actually, this really makes me want to dive more into the house. I would love to smell more from the house and just see, is this kind of a one-off from her? Or is this what all of her work smells like? Because, I mean, this is pretty impressive stuff for me. Very impressive. So thank you to my perfume god people who sent these my way. Very, very blessed to get to know these thanks to your generosity. And to everyone who sent me bottles, Allie and Angie, thank you very much for your generosity here. I have more than I know what to do with, so it's just a waiting game at this point for me to kind of get to know things and do videos on them and stuff like that. But thank you for keeping me well stocked and your generosity. So as always, cheers guys. Hope everyone can make the August 10th live stream, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time with Liz Moores. Come ready with some questions. I will be taking questions from the audience for her. I'll have some questions lined up, and I'll take some questions from the audience, so I hope you guys can be there. So as always, cheers guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.